Well, hello everyone. My name is Tim, aka Navy Diving. That's my handle on YouTube for my YouTube channel. Anyway, this is going to be part two in my Technics turntable recent purchase. You could say it maybe even part three because I did another Technics turntable about a month or so ago. Resold that one. My first video was SL-1500, which had issues, and I bought two turntables at the same time. One was a Technics SL-1300, which is the fully automatic old vintage Mark 1 turntable. And when I was looking at that turntable, the fellow who was selling it said, "Hey, there's a turntable over there. Do you want to have a look at it?" And I looked at it, and it was in pretty rough shape. So what I ended up doing was, I was comparing the two, and I wanted the automatic version, but he said he wanted to get rid of this one, so he gave me a price I could not refuse. And we've got a visitor here. This is Lily, our new little puppy dog. She just loves to be nearby. So the same problems with the SL-1300, and it's common with this vintage turntable. They're from the mid 1970s, late 1970s, mid to late, I guess. They're direct drive turntables, which is great. The Mark 1s, of course, and this one is a Mark 1 SL-1500. Not to be confused with the modern day SL-1500C, which is a direct drive, but also costs about $1,500. These ones you can pick up a little bit less expensively, and of course they're 40-some years old, so you got to take that into consideration. So over the years, what happens is the potentiometers, the fine pitch controls on here, the pots inside, they oxidize, and then they start going all wonky with their speed, which is a very common ailment, but it's a very easy one to fix. So we're going to do that with this turntable. I have not put a record on it yet because of the speed fluctuations. We're going to get that sorted out first. But also very common with these, this thing is a little loose. We'll have to tighten that up. This one doesn't have a stylus on it, so I'm not too concerned about it. But well, the damping actually seems to be pretty good on this one. Usually, the damping on the damping grease that lowers the tone arm slowly through gravity and wear and tear, basically loses its viscosity, and basically the tone arm just slams down on the record and sometimes skitters across the record until it can catch a groove or whatever. This one actually seems to be pretty good, although it's not fully balanced or anything like that. This is a little wobbly, so we're going to square that away. So I think we might have to put some stuffing in there to get it more sturdy. The other thing is the power control on this one is the lever is broken. It still functions perfectly. It's just somebody had snapped off the lever. So I found one on eBay. It's on order. I won't get it for another probably week and a half, 2 weeks. It's coming from the United States. But that does not deter me in actually fixing up the turntable. And it's just a matter of taking this one off and plugging the new one on. And it also comes with the harness and the board that sits behind it. But I suspect there is no problem with this because it's actually functioning quite well. We'll fix that in time. The other issue is this one has a badly scarred dust cover. In fact, it's so badly scarred I may not be able to bring it back up, but we'll try. I have a kit. It's called McGuire's Headlight Polish Kit, and it's for the acrylic headlights on most modern cars. They get foggy over time, with all the dirt and snow and bugs that hit it and everything. You take this polishing agent and you start with a coarse polish and get rid of all the scratches by just coarsely sanding it down a few microns. And then you slowly use, and it's wet polish, and you slowly go up in grit and or to a finer grit, and then get it to almost look like new again. So we'll try it with this. It looks like some of these markings are actually just some sort of a glue or something that somebody had stuck on side. So hopefully we can take that down, get rid of the major scratching on it, and buff that up. Or what I can do is I make my own acrylic covers, desk covers. I can do that possibly. I like to restore the original dust cover if I can, but if I can't, I'll make a new one, an aftermarket, like a DIY one, which I do a pretty good job at. The turntable itself is really dirty, but the arm, the bearings are nice and solid. The arm is in good shape. There's no bends in it or anything. It looks like it's I've been told by the owner that one channel was down, and he says when he wiggles the wires, the channel sort of cuts in and cuts out. So that tells me there's a break in the RCA line probably. So what we'll do is I'll use a multimeter. We'll trace down the signal path. We'll first go from the head shell to the junction block where it meets up with the RCA cable. Just make sure all of those are working good, and then we'll chase the continuity from the transition block to the ends of the RCA cables and see what we can determine, and then possibly either replace the RCAs or I can shorten it just a bit. If it's just, usually it's a pinch point where the cable comes out the back end of the turntable because it's flexing so much and the wires are so fine inside they can sometimes they'll part or make brief contact with each other. That's why it's intermittent. And we'll chase that down and get that fixed. I'll probably put new RCA terminals on the end because these ones were, okay and back in the day, but they're, after many times plugging in and out, they loosen up. You can still pinch them in a bit, but we'll put more modern, newer ones on that are gold plated so you don't get oxidization over time, and dress those up nicely. So lots to do. Heavy cleaning. There's a big sort of a glue patch here. Looks like they had one of those Audio Technica carbon fiber brush arms that release the static off the records, and I think somebody actually glued it down on the platter and left a big glue smear. So if I can't clean that up, I may just actually get another one of those arms. You can find them usually on Amazon or eBay or whatever, and put it over top. That will hide that sort of ugly mess of glue. I'll try some Goo Gone or acetone and see if I can take that off, but if not, that would be my backup plan. Otherwise, there's a few scratches and marks and stuff consistent with a turntable of this age, of this era, but holy smokes, this thing is really solid. It's really heavy. So it's unlike the 1300, which is a previous video, which I'll link in the bottom of the comment section of this video. This one is a fully manual turntable. So it's basically a kindred turntable to the SL-1200, which everybody knows was the famous DJ in its various marks and versions, including the newer, more modern ones. So it's a very competent turntable. It just doesn't have the sliding pitch controls. Your pitch controls are over here, and it's not quite as long throw. So that one is better suited for DJ, although it wasn't the 1200, the Tech 12 as people call it, was not originally designed as a DJ turntable. Contrary to common belief, it was actually designed as an audiophile table, and but that's how it's developed over the years. So this is every bit as good a turntable. It's just not designed for scratching and doing all that nasty stuff, which is, I think, very hard on vinyl and not my game. But so it's a very good sounding turntable, and I think probably just as competent as the SL-1500, although the newer one. Although they're the cost wise, I don't think the benefit. I think these are better value for the money. But that's my opinion. Anyway, we will delve into this one and flip it upside down. I'm not really caring about this. I mean, if I salvage it, I salvage it, but I'm going to use that as a support to flip it over, open up the back, get at these pots here, have a look at the any kind of switches and all that stuff. And there's a couple of coarse speed adjustment variable resistors that are on the bottom side of this. Usually you can, oh, they're there, right there. You can line these holes up and then you can adjust it without having to keep taking the platter on and off to adjust the coarse one. These ones, I was getting the speed to almost correct at the very end of the throw on these potentiometers here. That's probably due to the dirt and oxidization. But if they're still off, you know, really close to the limits of the pot, that's what those coarse adjustments are. So you can actually set these in the middle, do a coarse adjustment of speed, and then that way you get a better range of adjustment for your 33 and 45 fine pitch control pots here. The stylus on this one is a Stanton 681 Triple E, which were really good carts in the day, and some people, I guess, like them still to this day. However, on this particular one, there is absolutely no cantilever or stylus left. So basically it's a cartridge only. So, you know, I think you can get aftermarket versions of these, and it is marked 681 Triple E, or it's actually just Triple E on it. Yeah, so we're going to be changing that out. I'll see if I can find a stylus somewhere for it, but I'm not holding up any hopes. You can certainly find aftermarket styluses from LP Gear, I think, and a few other places, but they're not the original ones that were highly regarded. And I think you can find microline styluses and styli and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, well, that's a first world problem. We're going to get rid of that, put one on. I've got a audio or a Grado cartridge up there, over here, that I'll pop on there, and we can get it working and test it with that once I get all of the speed issues resolved. So, yeah, there's the marking 681 Triple E on it. So, I know those are highly collectible, but not for me, they aren't. Anyway, let's delve into this. I'll get it set up. I'm going to take these buttons off as I did. You can watch my previous video in the comments section. I take the buttons off and then I pull the pots out, and we'll give it a good spritz with contact cleaner, with fader lube for the pots, and I use deoxit, D5 deoxit for any of the switches, and that usually works well. So let's get this thing back up to scratch. Yeah, I forgot to mention that before I flip it over, obviously we're going to take the platter off. You don't want to have that slamming into the bottom side of the dust cover. We're going to also take out the counterweight so it doesn't put too much stress on the bearings here. And I'm going to just pop that off right now. And we'll keep the arm locked down so it doesn't go flopping around and wreck the bearings. Although that's pretty loose. It's in there. It's tight, it's just a little loose and wobbly. So we'll figure out a way of getting that sorted out. And we'll put all this stuff up here out of the way where we won't lose it. And we'll take the platter off. There is resistance to that coming off because it's the core of the motor. Sorry about the camera here. Let's see if we can actually get this off. I might not be able to. Okay. Maybe there's a circlip there that I need to remove. Okay, we're going to investigate that and see what needs to happen. There's supposed to be a bottle of oil here, or lube oil, for the bearing as well. That's not in there. I'm gonna have to look at this. I don't want to force it. Yeah, I did. I used a little extra force. It was just kind of pinned in there really well. So we'll give that a good little grease for the next time, so it's not so hard to get off. Of course, that's your stator part, and I'm going to unplug it. The reason being, you don't want to accidentally power this up. As I mentioned in the previous video with the SL-1500, you can actually damage the stator if you operate the turntable, because it's looking for the rotor part, which has the fixed magnet on it, and basically it's going to try and detect this, and it's not going to be there, and it could you can get some runaway currents in there and wreck your stators and the coils and the circuitry in there, is what I'm told. I'm not an expert in this design, but I've seen that in other videos. And the other thing is with the this is obviously a large ferrous magnet, so you don't want to have all kinds of magnetic shavings or pieces of metal lying around, and you want to put it face down so that you don't damage the rotor part, and keep it in a location where it can stay clean. So you don't want to these things are expensive to replace. And there we have it. So I think everything's sort of prepped to, oh, we got to take the buttons off. These ones tend to stick, but they were sticky. Oh, yeah, there we go. It's just glue came off. Very sticky to come out. So what I use is just a little bit of a screwdriver. I don't want to pry it and mar too much and mar the side of the table. So just doing it gently. Pull it up, and out it comes. So we'll have to, it's just a little metal cap that goes on top here. That just popped out. We'll glue that back on with some crazy glue, and we'll put these buttons aside. As I mentioned, this one is broken. There's a big lever that comes off of it. The guy didn't have the other piece, so there's no chance of, and anyway, it wouldn't support the torque. So I've got another one on order for that. So we'll put those over here out of the way so we can find them again. And as with my other repair jobs, what I like to do is have a little tray or a soup bowl or something. Nice cup of coffee as well. To be able to put little screws once we start taking the back end off. I don't believe we're going to have to take the anti-skate off, and everything is ready now to flip it over onto the back side so we can take the screws off. There we go. And so you got usually 3 long screws, and I see one is missing, so somebody's been in here. You can see that the bottoms of these have been, the felts have worn off of 2 of them. These ones are in really sad shape, so what we're going to do is we're going to replace those flat felts with better ones so that they survive for another 20 or 30 or 40 years. And yeah, somebody's been in here before, you can tell. But no matter. We will, oh yeah, there's some screws missing all around it. All of the screws around the outside edge. Now there's 2 screws here. 2, 3, 4 screws are holding this base plate down. So we're going to have to source some of these screws here to get it back together again properly. I got a whole bin of screws out in my garage. That's my regular shop. This is the winter location. It's November now, you can tell, November. So it's too cold now to work out in the garage, even with my space heater out there. So, all right, so I'm going to take the screws out here, put them in my little soup bowl, and then we're going to open it up and we'll check things out from there. Okay, I got the screws off, and there she is. Weird that I don't have all the screws for it, but we'll figure that out. And here we have, what I did was I transferred while I was off camera. I've got this Deoxit F5 fader lube, and these are the worst absolutely the worst lids in the universe. I've got the F5 and the D5, which is deoxit, just plain contact cleaner. Both these leak like a sieve, so you lose half the product while you're trying to, you know, squirt it into the pot. So what I did was I put it over top of a container and spritzed a whole bunch of F5 into one of these micro needle kind of applicators. And any of the stuff that dripped over the side, I just poured back in here. So now I've got a good little supply of fader lube in a better applicator than what is provided by Keg. They really need to sort that out, because I will not buy these unless ever again, because they're crap. Apparently you can buy fader lube in other types of containers, so that's the route I'm going to go. So do not, if you see these on the stand or on the shelf, do not buy them if they've got these kind of applicators, because they just leak like a sieve. And you know, these things are $50 a frickin' can, and you lose half of it while you're spritzing it out. So word to the wise. Anyway, we've got the back off, and now these are the two offending potentiometers that we're going to remove here. The other one was glued. This one actually has 2 screws. The other one didn't. It's a slightly different arrangement. There's a lot less complicated parts in here, simply because this is a manual turntable, so there's none of the linkages that are needed to move the tone arm over to the edge of the record and to recover it after the end of the play of the record. So all good. So we're going to put this in my little trusty parts bin, which is over here. And now we've exposed the pots, and what we're going to do one at a time. Got my little crescent wrench, my little mini crescent wrench here. So what we're going to do is use this needle-nosed applicator and get some product inside. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off first. It's got a nice little lid here, because even though it's a needle nose, it'll still evaporate out, and you could slowly lose product to evaporation. So let's put the lid back on. So we're going to undo these one at a time so we don't mix them up, and do the repair. Once again, there's 2 philosophies, as I mentioned in the other video. So if you didn't see the other video, I'll go over it again. There's 4 little tabs you can pinch open, and then you can take this can apart and get better access to the contacts and to the carbon plate that's in there that they rub against. And so you can do that only so many times, and then those tabs break, and then unfortunately you can't get that cap back on, and you've basically bricked the potentiometer. So I tend to go the high route and apply the product into there. So a lot of people I've seen online use contact cleaner. Do not use contact cleaner on potentiometers unless it's got a lubricant in it, because a dielectric lubricant. Because the reason is, what happens is it dries out all of the contacts that slide on one another, and that causes premature wear of the potentiometer, and then for sure you'll have to replace it. So what you need is a product like Fader Lube, which is the green can, and it says Fader F5. It's probably the best on the market, but it's overpriced. You can buy, I think, MG Chemicals. This is isopropyl, but they also have one that's like this, which is a contact cleaner lubricant, which is probably just as good as the deoxit. And they also offer a similar product to the deoxit D5, which is just a contact cleaner. So it's good for switches, where it's just a quick touch, but there's no sliding wear on carbon fiber brushes or what have you, plates. So that's good for cleaning switches, and that's good for cleaning potentiometers, is my understanding. So what we'll do is apply this product. So this has a contact cleaner in it, so it does clean it like this one does, but it leaves a little dielectric grease behind so that it actually acts as a prevents it from prematurely wearing due to a sandpaper kind of effect. So there is openings right here on the side, and so what we're going to do is put a liberal amount of stuff. A lot of this will evaporate away eventually, except for the grease that stays inside. So I will clean up any kind of overspill, and then right away, as soon as you start, what you should do is do back and forth about 30-40 times, and then maybe reapply a little bit more, a little bit after that. So you want to get it nice and spread around inside so that the contacts are lubricated and cleaned at the same time. And before it was kind of sticky and slow in turning. Now it feels like there's a little lube in there, and you don't feel that gritty sound that you feel when you turn. If it was just cleaned with contact cleaner, and that would be wearing out the contacts inside. So we'll do a little exercising, and that's just basically cleaning off all the parts inside. And then we'll do another application. There we go. It does leak out a little bit. Oh yeah, what a difference. And you can just feel it in the way the switch works, that it's working good. And then what I'll do is I use Q-tips, and I'm lacking Q-tips again, so I'm going to pause this. In the other video I was just using some of the dry ones of these. My wife's a nurse, so they're alcohol prep pads, so it's isopropyl alcohol. And some of these pads actually, because they're old, they actually evaporate out through the actual shell of this, and some of them are dry, and you can use that for soaping up extra stuff that leaks out. And it's good for cleaning grease off the wet ones as well. That's the stuff they use when you clean the skin just before putting a needle in. Okay, I think we've worked that one enough. And now you can see, and that'll leave any overspill will leave a layer of electric grease in there. So we want to clean that up and make sure that everything's nice and good. And the good thing about fader loop too is it's good on plastics. It doesn't eat up plastics. And the other part is there's a sort of a, I don't know what that's made out of, that dries out, and what it does is it lubricates that as well and prevents it from cracking. Breadboard, it's like a breadboard material. Anyway, I'm going to go get some Q-tips, and I'll be right back. Never have too many Q-tips when doing vintage audio, simply because there's lots of nooks and crannies in these old things, and we want to make sure that we clean that off. And what this does is also cleans the insides out pretty good. So there we have it. These alcohol swabs might actually be a little bit better for this. Oh, there's a washer that came apart with it. There we go. I'll have to do this again when I do that pot, no doubt. So doing redundant work here, no, I'm thinking. Okay, so we're going to put this back in. So that goes in there. Washer goes over top. And then we put the nut on top of that. And when actually, I forgot, there's one other part you can lubricate on these. Good thing I didn't put it all together. Just a little bit around right in there. We'll get a little bit of lubricant on there. And that'll seep inside to the barrel there and lubricate that as well. And make it nice and smooth for operating. Okay. Work that in so it works on the inside edge there. We'll put that on. Put the washer on. And then the nut. It's all simple stuff. I usually do this, I used to do this all by time-lapse photography, but then I got a bunch of people that would rather me drone on for hours and hours as I do this kind of stuff, because they learn a little bit more than, because with the time-lapse photography you don't actually hear any of the commentary, and hopefully you're gleaning something from this. There. So once again, I mentioned that we're not going to tear into these caps. If I find that within 6 months this is back to oxidized again and speed is drifting and wandering, I'll do the same thing. I'll tear it apart, open these things up, and then maybe I'll do the open the cans up if it's necessary. But I don't think it will be. I think you know, if I do this once a year or once every 2 years, then if it needs it, it may not. I'm going to try and see if this will stretch out. Oh, that came off. I see. And that way I don't get it into the insides of the turntable with any overspill. There we go. Lots of product in there. Oh yeah. Just exercise it as many times as you got patience for. I probably don't do it enough because I don't have much patience. But let's see what happens when we reassemble it. We're also going to take this board off here because there's two variable resistors that are the coarse adjustment for pitch control and speed. So let's do one more. There we go. This time I'll do it on there as well. And we'll do it upside down. Get the product everywhere inside the pot, so let gravity do its work. Oh yeah, you can really feel the difference. It's such a smooth control now, instead of really gummy. There we go. Okay, we'll put that on. And once again, the washer goes on first, followed by the nut. And when I use the crescent wrench, do it snug, but I don't really crank on it. You want to be able to take these apart half decently. You just want it so that it's not going to back off. If you're really anal, you could put some Loctite on there or whatever, but then it just makes it that much more difficult to take it off later if you need to reapply something here and redo the repair. There we go. We'll leave that off to the side, and we'll clean up the inside there. There's the backing of the light. So if you have to ever change, if the light's burnt off for your strobe light, you can always, that's how you do it. You take these parts off and then you can expose the bulb and fix it that way. As I say, with this, with these manual tables, there's not much going on there. Let's see if you can always feel which ones are the dried ones because they feel cool. This one, or the wet ones are cool. They feel cool. The dry ones don't feel cool. Yeah, we got a dry one here. So these are good for soaking up the any of the product. There we go. Didn't drip that much. I just want to do a thorough job. Okay. Put those in the garbage. And so this part popped off here, and that actually just goes in. You got it, and that's, of course, you want to make sure you got it the right way. So that's how it was on. It wouldn't have been twisted. And then we're going to take our two screws, put those back on. And I bet you that'll be good for another 20 years. Oops. Once again, I have a magnetizer where I magnetize the ends of these screwdrivers. That it's easy to pick the screws up. There we go. You want to cross thread it because that's an aluminum thread in there, because this is an aluminum base. It's a very solid base, and you don't want to cross thread it because if you cross thread aluminum, then the threading is just hooped. So again, not too tight. You don't want to wreck any of the threads. Nice and steady. And if you're doing these, you can I would use contact cleaner. That's F5. That's F5. F5 there. So what I want to do is just give it a little. Oh, that's the wrong stuff. Again, I'm going to fill up I have some D5 somewhere. There we go. This isn't where you're sliding anything. This is basically just going to clean the pins there to make sure it's got a good contact. We'll just work it in there to make sure that those contacts are clean. And then what we're going to do is remove the this board assembly here. So it's three bolts, 1, 2, and 3. And then you have to lift it straight up because there's pins here that go into the motor mount. And if you try to tug it in any direction, you're going to break or bend those pins. So it needs to come straight up when you take this off. It's exactly the same as on the SL-1500. I'm sure it's the same with the 14 or the 16 and all the different variants of these turntables. Okay, and as I mentioned, so these are in usually pretty snug. So you just lift it straight up, and there you can see those are the pins. And we're going to hit that with a little bit of contact cleaner as well. There we go. Let that soak in there. And here's those variable resistors that we're going to be concerned about. I'm not going to touch this one. It's set. I think everything else is working good. Not sure what that one's for, but Usually these factory set ones you don't want to muck with, but this is actually a user controllable one, so that's why we're gonna clean that. So I note the settings of where they're at. This one was there, so we're gonna douse that. Just a little tip will give you the product you need. We're gonna work that one in. On this variable resistor. So this is VR1. And while you're at it, look at the caps and make sure that none of them are bulging or any of them looks distressed, or no burn marks, nothing, none of the transistors look like they've been overheated, and any of the other resistors, nothing with any burn marks. If you really wanted to, you could go and test each of those resistors. I'm not going to do that because it was actually functioning. But if you do, so if this doesn't all rectify it, then my next, because oftentimes a bad cap doesn't show any physical problems to it, then that would be the next order of business, would be to go in and recap all of these electrolytics. You don't have to do any of the mylar, if there's any mylar ones. You don't have to do those usually, but film caps. But any of the electrolytic can caps you want to replace with the same values, but you can actually go higher voltages. You never want to go lower voltages, obviously, because you could then fry your system, and usually when something fries, it fries things downstream as well. So these won't be exactly set where they were. I'm setting them approximately then, so we may have to do the course adjustment first and then set the trim or the pitch control fine adjustments. There we go. In a neutral sort of 12 o'clock position. So that way when you get these ones dialed into the approximate speed, then you got maximum flexibility in your range for your adjustment of your fine pitch control. That looks like a diode here. Looks like it's in good shape. I mean, this board looks like it was made yesterday. It's like in really good shape. No oxidization that I can see. No, even the solder joints all look pretty good. No corrosion there that I can see, which is good. So we exercise this enough, I think. And I think just the one douse there, they were pretty wet there. And I just want to get any overspill off the board. There wasn't much, but there was a little bit. Okay. There we go. That's good enough. Good enough for government work. It's a dirty one. So, we've got that back there. And while we're at it, we're going to open that up and see. I don't know if that's got a backing plate. It may not need any kind of attention for the back of the spindle. I don't know if it rests on a point. We want to make sure that if there's plenty of grease in there. So get this here. So this is the end protection cap, and there might be like a bearing seat there, so we want to check that out. Might as well while you got it open. Yeah, look at that. How is that? Yeah, it's still very fluid. Doesn't need any attention. Looking good. If that was all dried out, I would I would put some new lubricant in there, but that lubricant is not dried out and gummy. It's in good shape. So we're going to leave that as is. I think that happened with the previous guy, but the on the SL-1300 it was all dried out, so I ended up having to put some lubricant in there just to give it. And now when you turn the turntable off, it just spins and spins and spins and spins. So that tells you that the bearings are good and that the lubricant is doing its job. Again, snug but not super tight. You don't want to be stripping any of those aluminum grooves there. There, nice. Okay, and let's just for giggles have a look under here. I like to check everything out thoroughly. There's only 2 screws on this plate. There should be 4, it looks like. So again, somebody had gone in here. And I think somebody had actually changed the oh yeah. So that's the post for the queuing grease. It's about 300,000 CST silicone grease that they put in to give it the damping effect to lower the arm. I believe somebody's already been in there and had cleaned that because it looks fresh and it's got lots of bounce to it. So we're good there. And when they did it, they only put 2 screws back. They didn't put all 4 of them back in. Naughty, naughty. And the same with the base plate. They only put about half the screws in. You know, I hate people that do things half-assed. It just shows you their attention to detail. They're interested in getting a job done quickly, not properly. So I'm going to try and I might have some of those kinds of screws. I know what size they are. I'll see if I can find some. And I got to do the same thing for the top there as well. What are those? Oh yeah, that's these screws. Okay. Did I drop the screw? I might have. Too much junk on the desk here. Okay, so we're going to put this back on, making sure we line them up and the screws line up, everything. Okay. There we go. So we got 1, 2 screws here. And I'm missing a 3rd. I'm guilty as charged of doing the same thing. Okay, we don't want to cross thread it again. I might have dropped it on the floor. Yes, I did. There it is. I should have put that in my little parts bin. There we go. You can tell if it's not going in properly. Don't carry on screwing really tightly because you probably cross-threaded it and it didn't go in properly. So just back it out and try a few times until it goes in nice and smoothly. I've learned my lesson over a few decades of taking things apart and putting them back together again. There we go. There. Nice and snug. We're going to make sure this part is put back on. It's not going to pop out. And I have no reason to believe these fuses are bad at all. But you know what? Sometimes it wouldn't even power up if that was a bad fuse, if that fuse was bad. But anyway. Okay, all those joints are looking good. So this may be a good time to check these leads here. So remember I said at the beginning of the video that the guy was reporting that, no wonder that's how he treats his wires, that I'm the last person to take this apart. There we go. So I am thinking, so here's your ground wire wrapped around the power lead and the RCA jacks. There we go. There we go. Now they're separated. Okay, he was saying that when he was moving it here, I think, is where it was. So I got to take that back off again. Sorry. So I want to get the junction block in there and probe that, and then chase down the RCA leads and see if I've got broken continuity on any of these lines. So let's move that. There we go. So I was doing some 3D printing, so I got a whole bunch of 3D print stuff here too that's in the way. Okay, so we're going to do red hot first. We're going to do right channel ground. Make sure it's not cross-connected in any way. So that's working. And left channel hot is working intermittently. That may be our problem right there. No, it was just a bad part of the solder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably reflow these. Okay. Yeah, I don't trust this one. The red hits every time. And now the red isn't working. Okay. Well, it doesn't seem to be acting up too much. I'm going to reflow those, just to be sure. Okay. But I don't know, I moved the wire and it didn't seem to be cutting in and out, but that looks like a little dirty on these connection points between the tone arm. The other thing is we'll do, I want to test the tone arm leads as well, and trace the lines through here to make sure it's not the tone arm leads that are problematic. So anyway, I'm gonna go get my soldering gun. Well, as so often the case, I went upstairs for 2 minutes to get the soldering machine to reflow these connections, and lo and behold, it's now what, about 3 hours later. I ended up doing a bunch of chores and stuff like that. So anyway, I think I'm going to try and pick up where I left off, if I can remember where I was. So we were looking at these possible intermittent connections here. I said I would reflow because it seems when I'm touching them, the connectors here, they're not so reliable. So I'm not going to put any new solder on. I'm just going to reflow them. Maybe there's some crusties there that are getting in the way. So there we go. This one's being a bugger. There we go. That one's good. Make sure they're all still connected. Sometimes it can be just a little bit of crustiness in the solder joints that can cause issues. So every once in a while, if I'm suspecting something intermittent, I'll reflow a few of them and just see if that cures things. These are not really flowing that easy at my normal soldering temperature here. There we go. Let's see how that works out. And I was going to hit the switch as well. Yeah, that's just a mechanical link. It's not, well, I guess it is electrical. I'm not having any issues with the power switch, but it never hurts to clean the contacts and get them back and get the juices flowing. Okay, there we go. Everything's looking good on the board. And I've reflowed those. Let's do a few more continuity tests here just to see. So we'll hold the hot. Yeah, there we go. And the ground for the right channel. That's good. And the left channel hot. Yeah, much better. Sometimes I was touching it and nothing was happening, so I think there was a bit of a oxidization crust on the top there, so that might have been an issue. Yeah. And no crosstalk. There we go, I think that's good. And what I may do, this is going to be tricky because the arm is underneath. And let's see, so positive. It's going to be the bottom left, bottom right is, so right positive is bottom left, left net positive is bottom right, and then their two respective grounds are on the top. So, there we go. Yeah, there we go. That's good. That's good. And ground. And other ground. There we go. Everything's connected to the arm. So looks like we got good continuity from the head shell coupling all the way to the end of the RCA jacks through this coupling port here, or terminal. And the only other thing, of course, is to test the head shell. And I'm going to go to another head shell, I believe. This is the original one. I don't like the original one all that much. So I have another one in the other room there, which is the other type of Technics head shell. And I also have this 3D printed gauge that I printed from Thingiverse. And the beauty thing about this one is you pop it in there, and this one doesn't have the stylus, it's broken off, but you can see it was probably actually overhanging too much. So you put this gauge on, butt it all the way up to the edge, and the tip of this should be lined up right with the tip of the stylus. And then you got your correct overhang distance recommended by Technics. So I've printed a few of these. These are like pennies to print. You can get this model on thingiverse.com, and just type Technics. It's SL-1200, but all of these, the SL-1200, 1300, 14, 15, 16, 1950, all have the same overhang. Basically, it's the same, very similar arms, not exact same arms, but they all use the same overhang. So you can use this gauge for any of that series of turntables. It's very handy to have. And yeah, So I'm going to transfer this Grado cart that I have here on this Thorns turntable, because this cart is not functional, onto the other Technics head shell that I have. And then I'll do some continuity checks to make sure that on the head shell itself, to make sure that everything's letting the signal through. And then we'll be ready to, I think, do a sound check on this thing. So I'll be back in a second. And this time it'll be a second. So I got this cartridge here from, it was an old turntable that somebody gave me to fix up. And it's really funny because, you know, I'm getting old, so my eyesight ain't so good. So you can see the cantilever's all in good shape. It's an 0-10 Ortofon. Everything's connected up good and everything. Right now I've got one screw out, but that's okay. I put a new one in. Yeah, and put it on the record. I always try it on a cheap, crappy record just in case. And sure enough, it skittered across this thing. And there's no stylus. The stylus was knocked off at some point by the original owner, I think. Anyway, I've got the cartridge. I can. The beauty of these OM series of Ortofon cartridges is you can take these stylize, and you can actually upgrade through their product line, similar to the Audio-Technica VM series of cartridges. So you can keep the same body, so you don't have to buy a whole new body and cart. If you want to upgrade the stylus, you can just buy an upgraded stylus and pop it on, and you'll have instead of an $80 stylus, you'll have a $300 stylus. So we'll keep that in case I ever do decide to try to upgrade it or put it. But I mean, the stylus cost is about 80% of the cartridge cost, so it's not a big savings in cost. Anyway, so I'm going to do this off camera because it's fiddly work and it takes forever to disconnect all these head shell lead wires and put a new cartridge on and take one off of that. So I'm going to do that and we'll pick it up basically from there. So I got this cartridge here from, it was an old turntable that somebody gave me to fix up. And it's really funny because, you know, I'm getting old, so my eyesight ain't so good. So you can see the cantilever's all in good shape. It's an 0-10 Ortofon. Everything's connected up good and everything. Right now I've got one screw out, but that's okay. I put a new one in. Yeah, and put it on the record. I always try it on a cheap, crappy record just in case. And sure enough, it skittered across this thing. And there's no stylus. The stylus was knocked off at some point by the original owner, I think. Anyway, I've got the cartridge. I can. The beauty of these OM series of Ortofon cartridges is you can take these stylize, and you can actually upgrade through their product line, similar to the Audio-Technica VM series of cartridges. So you can keep the same body, so you don't have to buy a whole new body and cart. If you want to upgrade the stylus, you can just buy an upgraded stylus and pop it on, and you'll have instead of an $80 stylus, you'll have a $300 stylus. So we'll keep that in case I ever do decide to try to upgrade it or put it. But I mean, the stylus cost is about 80% of the cartridge cost, so it's not a big savings in cost. Anyway, so I'm going to do this off camera because it's fiddly work and it takes forever to disconnect all these head shell lead wires and put a new cartridge on and take one off of that. So I'm going to do that and we'll pick it up basically from there. There, I spared you the agony of watching all of the fiddly stuff that goes on with swapping cartridges from one head shell to another. So I took it off the old Thorns TP60 head shell, and it's a Grado GT with a modern black stylus and very competent inexpensive cartridge. And if you look at it very closely, might have a little bit of perspective difference there, but you know, try and give you different angles. From my judgment, it looks like it's bang on the overhang distance for a Technics turntable. So that should be correctly set up, and then it's just a matter of balancing out the arm. And if you look at it, it looks like it's square in the head shell. It doesn't look like it's canted, so there's no zenith or azimuth error as far as I can tell. The cantilever looks straight, doesn't look bent or sagging in any direction. And then, of course, what we'll want to do is align it with a bubble sensor, and then just make sure that everything is set up correctly when it's playing on the surface of a record. So we'll turn off that. We don't need that anymore. We'll put this up here until we can swap this around. So now we have to just do the reverse of everything, and that's put this back on. And I'm going to need some more of these screws. So I'm going to go out in the garage and look in my screw bin and see if I can find a couple of these the right size. A lot of these hi-fi manufacturers use the same types of screws when they were screwing together stuff like this, so hopefully I can find some of them in my spare parts bin. I didn't need to use these washers here, so they can go back into the washer box. And done with these Allen keys for the cartridge setup. Okay, so I'm going to go and see if I can find some screws. If not, then we'll just go with 2 on the plate, because it's something that's not being touched anyway. So if I put the 2 in, which I'll do right now, I'll put 1 in because I need one to size another. And that way, we know this is not going anywhere. There we go. Make sure these are all lined up. Snug again. And I will be back and see if I can find some screws. And I'm also going to look for all it is the long screws that they had for the bottom. They didn't even have them in the right places. So anyway, I will see if I can find some shorter versions of those as well. Okay, I found some screws that might do the trick. They're not perfect, but anyway, we'll try it. If not, then I'm just going to go back to doing the safe thing and just keeping it the way it was. So this is the one that I used to measure against. And these other ones are black, but they may do the trick. Oh, look at that. They're a little long, but they'll hold it in there. I could zip that off with a perfect. That's perfect. There we go. That's secure. And make sure I put all my bits back here so I don't lose them. And now we'll do the bottom. But first we got to get this all sorted out, all the wires, so they don't get pinched or mixed up with my multimeter. So it's also missing a plate here, I noticed. On mine there's a plate where it on the 1300 there's a plate that goes across here, and there's 2 screws that go in here that hold this in place. So I might have to jury rig something for that as well. You don't want this. That's probably why I was having some issues, and it could be there still is a break in there, but I'm going to make something that goes across there and find 2 screws that'll work there. So yeah, I'm going to do that before we close it up. All right, off camera, what I did was I got a popsicle stick and I measured the distance between these two, and I cut it off with a little bit of slack on each side. And then what I've done is got these little screws here, the same ones that fit in there, which I suspect will fit here as well. And what we're going to do, I didn't drill holes, but popsicle sticks are pretty flimsy. What I'll do is get it started here. Yeah, I should drill a hole. Back to square one. I'm gonna drill holes equidistant apart because when you screw into it, these are too thick. They actually split it. So let's try that again. I do with the screw now. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, what we're gonna do is just measure where I'm going to drill this thing. So there's the hole there. It's going to be right there. So I need a pen. Right there. And we'll drill the second hole with this backing board so I don't go through my table. Scrap piece of wood. Okay. Oh, and there's the other screw that I was missing. It's right on the screwdriver. Okay, so still splitting. Not a big enough hole, obviously. I don't care. It's going to work. It's only splitting a little bit, and it's just got to hold it there. There we go. There we go. That's going to hold it there. That's all it needs to do. There we go. Cement will hold that in place, and we're good. Okay, so next we do the bottom. That lines up perfectly there. And then we got to fix these crappy feet. Just the padding on them is gone. The feet are there, it's just you got to put new padding on it is all. So that's an easy fix. Okay, so now we've got the long ones. So there should be 3 long ones at least. There are 4 actually. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Or 4 there. We'll see. There we go. One more long one here. There we go. It does take 4 long ones. Possibly 5. So I've got one that looks pretty much the same. That may work. Yeah, that one works. And then these ones, they're pretty short. Those aren't going to work. I'm going to have to get shorter ones for the perimeter ones. So I only need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perimeter ones, and I've got all those ones, but it's intact. That's going to be fine. And now what we're going to do is pull these pads off. And get new pads for these. I think I got just the thing here upstairs. It's double-sided tape that's all gone to crap. You can see. I'm just using some needle nose pliers or tweezers here to pull off this old double-sided tape and felt padding. So we'll put new stuff on there. This one, the padding is gone, it's just the double-sided tape that's there. All old and dry. This is all original stuff, I think. There we go. Clean those off. And I'm going to go up and find some suitable padding for this. And we'll see what happens. All right, I wanted to just end this here as, I know it's right in the middle of something, but this turned out to be almost a 2 hours and 45-minute video. And I didn't do my time lapse, which would have shortened it considerably, but then you miss a lot. So the idea here is fast forward through all the boring stuff and get to the parts where you want, because I did a lot here on this 2-video set. So I'm now complete, but and you can see the turntable running, so there is light at the end of the tunnel after this project. But there was a lot of back and forth, some issues like I put everything together, hooked it up, and the left channel didn't work. Anyway, so I went back, changed out the RCA jacks. So I don't want to give it all away, but stand by for part 2. Part 2 will be coming. It'll be about an hour and a half, but you'll actually hear a sound demonstration of what I completed, and it's worth the while if you have one of these turntables and are looking, you're having multiple issues like I did with this one, which is left channel gone, speed was out, the queuing mechanism was good, but the actual anti-skate I thought was a problem, but it turned out it was the holder for the arm. Anyway, that was an easy fix, and a bunch of other stuff that I think you can appreciate if you're trying to restore one of these turntables. So thanks for watching.